A new NBC News analysis found that people seeking an abortion will likely have to travel 4 hours on average to receive care. But for many, traveling just isn't an option. That's the case for the almost 60,000 pregnant women who are estimated to enter our prison system each year. Now, activists fear the Supreme Court decision could bring new challenges to an already vulnerable population. Joining me to discuss is DeAnna Hoskins. She is the president of Just Leadership USA, a criminal justice reform advocacy group. Welcome very much to you. Why do you believe this decision could have a dangerous impact on women behind bars?
So we know once the decision, thank you for having me, but we know once the decision was struck down, prisons are going to follow that law. And if you talk about the 12 states that already have the law, in the ban in effect, prisons are not going to transport a woman across state lines. She has to pay for it herself. And when we're talking about marginalized and oppressed communities that are being incarcerated, it's just not going to be an option. When we talk about the number of women that enter prison, possibly with opiate addiction issues, possibly being a victim of sexual assault, those women are going to be forced to actually carry and have those babies if there's no threat to the woman's life. So those incarcerated, it's almost going to be impossible to even make that choice, even if they had the funds to pay for it, but it's just not going to happen.
DeAnna, just if you could just clarify for me just a little bit more, what do we currently do prior to this decision? How does this play out for women who are in that situation currently? You mentioned they've got to pay for this themselves. They still may be in a state with some form of restrictions. What are we currently doing versus, as you just laid out, what will likely be the case under in a post-Roe world?
So prior to this, the Roe versus Wade being struck down, the woman still had to pay for the abortion. Her family had to come up with the funds. And if the prison had to transport her to the facility, the family had to pay for that cost as well. But in most cases, even to make that decision when you're incarcerated, took filing some type of court document to get the prison to take the woman across. So it was not a simple making a decision that this is what you want to have. I have the funds. It was literally going through the legal channels to make sure that the prison follow through with your constitutional right, and now that right is taken away, so that option is not going to be there for women.
And so on that point, the data shows that at least 7 states with so-called trigger laws have some of the nation's highest rates of female incarceration. Has your organization learned of any increase in resources, whether that be care during or after pregnancy in those states? And if women are unable to get an abortion, what do they do now? I mean, what are you finding already from the work you're doing?
So one of the things that we're starting to realize is that, again, when we talk about being a victim of sexual assault, especially with the high opiate use of women being arrested from the community off the streets, women are going to be forced to have to carry these babies, care for these kids, actually turn the kid over, the baby over to a family member if she has to serve a significant amount of time, or even having a family member that's willing to take it. Or it's going to be turned over to the state system, and the system is going to have to actually pay for it through foster care, adoption, and different things of that nature. But the biggest thing about this, Michael, for women is the mental anguish of that decision, especially if I'm a victim of sexual assault prior to my arrest. The fact that I have to carry the person who assaulted me's child, and then I have to actually care for that child or have my family care for that child. That decision was taken away from me, and women are not going to be able to make that decision anymore. And it's actually going to be a bigger strain on the system. But again, what are the resources that we're trying to give to women in these situations? Look, we're a country right now that's having a formula shortage. We're talking about people should not have kids unless they can take care of them. This is the decision that if I feel I can't take care of this child, you just took that decision away from me to make that choice as to how I can be a productive parent to this child. And what we see with an increase in substance abuse, mental illness, homelessness, that a lot of children are falling victim and prey to the unfortunate situation of their parents. And I feel like we are putting children in a situation that they are actually being victims of.
DeAnna Hoskins, thank you very much.